Yeah, well, sure, I'd like to talk if I can.
Mr. Biggs will be this side if you got someone on this side, but if not, Mr. Biggs is recognized for 5 minutes to speak on the now amended amendment by Ms. Jackson-Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to address, I appreciate my friend Ms. Jackson-Lee's amendment and her willingness to modify the language offered by Mr. Bishop. But I'll just tell you why there's a couple of points that you need to be aware of as you consider the use of the word urban areas in the original document that we're now apparently holding hands and changing. According to the National Crime Victimization Survey, violent crime in urban areas rose 29% from 2020 to 2021. From 19 victimizations per 1,000 persons for somebody aged 12 and older to 24.5. Additionally, the NCVS found that the violent crime rate in urban areas was between 29 and 42% higher than the rate in rural areas. And the reason I say that is because some of the data that was just alluded to is not reflected in official data. Then you move on. In 2021, the violent crime rate in urban areas was 121% higher than rural areas. That's significant. That's why I think we should be focusing on urban areas. We're not going to neglect rural areas for sure, but the focus should be where the dam is broken. And the dam is broken in Democrat-controlled large cities, and I'll yield a minute to Mr. Bishop.
Thank you to Mr. Biggs, and I don't disagree with that at all. So what makes the addition of the term rural inoffensive to me is I believe the stark contrast will become all the more stark if we look at both. And so I don't suggest that the premise that there is equal surges of violent crime in the rural areas is at all factually accurate. I know all these sort of tricks about, it happens more often in blue cities within red states, or is bigger with blue cities in red states than blue cities in blue states. But I think that it doesn't harm us to look at both because it just makes the contrast striking.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Mr. Bishop, and I agree with you, and that's what will happen. And so I'm going to provide some more contrast right here. The violent crime rate in urban areas, 48% higher than in suburban areas in 2021. More than tripling the difference from 2018 to 2020 that was present. The property crime rate in urban areas is nearly twice as high in 2021 as in suburban areas. Almost 160 victimizations per 1,000 to 87 per 1,000 in suburban areas. And it's 3 times as high as in rural areas. Where do we see this based on population density? New York, New York, Hoboken, New Jersey, Union City, New Jersey, San Francisco, Miami Beach, Jersey City, Honolulu, Boston, Chicago, Arlington, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., Miami, Florida, Somerville, Massachusetts, and then Philadelphia, PA. The note here, which is interesting, that is Los Angeles is 30th on the list. The point is, and I'm willing to accept this amendment, but the point is, it was not irrational to focus on where the dam is broke, and the dam is broken in urban areas. But I do agree with Mr. Bishop's point that as we begin to investigate this, it will become an even more stark contrast that something has to be done in these urban areas, not the least of which, as my colleague from Texas was talking about, the trusting the prosecutors. Yeah, we're going to find out that you probably shouldn't trust some of those prosecutors in those big cities that have triple the crime rate, the violent crime rate of rural areas, because in rural areas, at least they're prosecuting, and in urban areas, they're releasing them after a mere matter of hours after the arrest, and they reoffend because they know that there's going to be no consequence. And the news today is littered with stories of heinous crimes committed by people who had just committed a previous crime but were released by a derelict prosecutor. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Now yield back.